Today is all about how to lead an effective and engaging 15-minute team huddle. This is only an hour long because it would be weird to do a 2 or 3 hour webinar about a 15-minute meeting. You know what I mean? So we're going to keep it short and sweet and to the point. This next slide is my least favorite, but it's going to be helpful for today's discussion because it has my face on it. I try not to show things with my face on them, but you should know who your presenter is. So my name is Jessica Matley. I'm here representing Caltrin. I'm one of the training coordinators here, and I often build and facilitate curriculum in the area of leadership and management, which is my wheelhouse. So prior to joining Caltrin, I actually worked in training and development. So I worked mostly in an HR capacity. So I'm a former HR gal, and I developed trainings, led trainings for staff at all levels of an organization. It was actually a global organization rooted in hospitality. That's going to come into play in a few moments. Prior to that, I worked for First Five San Diego way back in 2009, where I had a front row seat as a care coordinator to see what does community support look like. And it was the family resource centers in my area that taught me everything I know. So I'm here not just bringing my expertise to you as an HR professional, as a learning and development enthusiast, but also someone who's a super fan of you and your work, and hoping to provide any strategies I can today just to make your work a little easier and what it looks like to kind of bring together your team in a quick and effective way. So I did ask you a little information about you. You told me, where you're from, which I'd love. If you haven't done that yet, please drop it into the chat. I am curious to know, though, just out of sheer curiosity, I'm curious to know, how long do you think a huddle should be? Tell me in the chat, how long should a huddle be? Now, huddle meaning a quick team meeting that could be daily, could be monthly. How long do you think it should be? You're going to learn by the end of today, but I'm just curious to know what we think. Okay, I see everything from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. These are incredibly common answers. Yep, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. All right. I'll ask you again in about an hour. Well, 45 minutes, what you think? So let me tell you what we're going to be covering specifically today. Today, we're going to review the benefits of conducting team huddles. We're also going to talk about the difference between a meeting and a huddle because they are not the same. We're going to talk about tips and strategies for developing an effective and engaging team huddle agenda that hopefully you could start using as soon as today if you want to, maybe tomorrow. You could develop a plan for facilitating your next team huddle. That's my goal and our goals together in this session. I am curious to know, in the chat, will you tell me, do you currently hold team huddles? Short, quick team meetings. You could say yes or not yet. Yet is the operative word because I'm here to convince you. Okay, thank you, Gabriella. All right, not yet. All right, well, listen, I'm about to make you some fans. You don't even know it yet. Great. Okay, so let's talk about why it's recommended from an HR standpoint, as a human being on a team standpoint. What is the benefit of a team huddle? What is it? Why is it? All the things. Let's talk about the purpose and the benefits, if you will. Again, if you didn't see it, just in case you tapped in here a moment after we started, I'm going to drop for you some note-taking slides. Oops, nope, I'm lying. That's the Emerging Leaders program that we're running. The note-taking slides are dropped right now. So the note-taking slides is that second link so you can follow along with me, especially if you're a note taker. So the purpose of a huddle is really to ensure that they are brief, they are focused meetings that bring together team members to align goals, to share those important updates, maybe to discuss a specific challenge, but at the end of the day, it's really to foster relationship and collaboration together. They're usually conducted on a regular basis. Maybe you have a daily huddle, which that's a lot, y'all. If you're doing daily huddles and meetings and quarterly planning, that's a lot. But if you do them a couple times a week or whatever is best for you and your team, I understand. I would also say that typically people are doing huddles 2 to 3 times a week is the most common. I think it depends on the nature of your work and the type of updates your team needs to know. I have some examples actually a little bit later on about some teams that have to do it every day. Some have to do them multiple times a day. But here's the thing to note. Team huddles are designed to be 15 minutes or less. So for those of you that gave, kind of that 5 minutes to 30 minutes, we're going to cut the middle here and say 15 minutes or less is the goal. I think 15 minutes is a very sweet spot, and we'll talk about that. These are short but impactful sessions. They are designed to focus on alignment, provide a platform for your team to align whatever their current efforts are to the common goals and objectives of the team. By sharing these updates, by discussing priorities, clarifying expectations, maybe even identifying barriers that are stopping people from doing the good work, you can make sure that everybody's on the same page, has the same vision, and sometimes that reminder keeps us in the pocket, keeps us focused. It's also an opportunity to information share. It facilitates the timely and efficient exchange of information within a team. Timely and efficient. It allows team members to share important updates, project status, maybe relevant news, any other information that might impact that team member's work or their goals that week or that day. Typically, it's not the best place to talk about your strategic initiative next year. That's what a meeting is for. A huddle is to say, is anything going to impact your work today? Is anything going to impact your work tomorrow? These are quick updates, reminders. I also think in the spirit of information sharing, it kind of keeps the spirit of transparency alive on the team. So everybody's in the know and everybody has access to the same information, same resources as well. Another purpose, of course, is collaboration and problem solving. It provides an opportunity for team members to collaborate and problem solve together. Often in a team huddle, there might be a team member who's having a challenge with a particular referral organization, or maybe they're struggling to find the right resource for a family and they need to, follow up with this family in the next day or two. It's a great place since everyone is already together to say, hey, everybody, who has a great food bank resource, who has a great training in this area, whatever that looks like for you, it's a great place to problem solve in a quick and effective manner and really pulls from the expertise and knowledge of the team while everyone is all together. Of course, it helps foster a sense of community and connection. Think about, I don't know about you, but our team is kind of spread out, right? We're remote. We don't all sit in an office together. So tell me in the chat, are you a hybrid team? You have some folks in the office, some folks out of the office. Are you all remote? Are you all in office? Hybrid, remote, in office and in the field. All in the office. Great. So before March of 2020, my entire career up to that point had been spent in an office, 9 to 5 office. I worked next door to somebody. I could hear them on a phone. I could pop in and ask a question. Do you know who is my coworker today in this office? Well, my dog isn't here right now, but if he was, it's my dog, like you, Sarah. Yes. I don't have the option. My dog's name is Dave. I can't be like, hey, Dave, where do I find that spreadsheet? Like Dave doesn't know. I know the value of having the opportunity to quickly connect with others when you are alone in your office, right? Your home office, especially with those hybrid teams as well. You have some in the house, some are remote. Team huddles are a place to create a shared platform for everybody to come together. So if you're in person, huddle up somewhere in an office, in a break room. If you're virtual, you huddle up in a Zoom meeting or Teams or whatever your preference is. If you're hybrid, divisive, I always say I want to find the most common denominator. So I would go virtual. So everybody is virtual versus some in virtual, some in a room, but I know everybody can do whatever works for you. Also, quickly, the purpose of a huddle is accountability. This is an opportunity to get some progress on reports, quick check-ins, discuss obstacles, receive feedback. It encourages individual responsibility, and it also makes sure that everyone remains focused on the current priority. And lastly, but not leastly, continuous improvement. It creates an opportunity for reflection, maybe discussing successes, especially for you achievers out there. I know you're probably like, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next milestone? This is a great opportunity to pause and say, okay, we have a lot to do, but can we just take a beat and say, what have we done that we want to celebrate of ourselves and each other? So it's also a morale booster. These are the benefits, the purpose. These benefits, I feel like, why would you choose a huddle instead of a team meeting? It's efficient. It's a shorter huddle. It allows teams to save time by maximizing the duration of the meeting. It keeps it concise and focused. You can quickly address key topics without wasting unnecessary time. And not wasting is a harsh word. We're going to say allocating time to other things like, how have you been? What have you been up to? I love those. Those are important. Sometimes in a team meeting, you might have more time for the longer icebreakers. Huddles are really intended to create quick, efficient conversations and collaboration. It also means that somebody can return quickly to their work and maintain productivity. It's like a pit stop on a lap of car racing. I never watched one a day in my life, so it's really cute that that's the first thing that came to my mind. But in a pit stop, they stop, it's like bzz, 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 and they're off to the race. That's a huddle. It's quick. It allows people to jump back into whatever they were doing. They just came for a quick touch base update, whatever that looks like. Another benefit, it will increase engagement. When huddles are shorter, they're to the point, they're more focused. Team members are likely to stay more engaged throughout the meeting. I don't know about you. I have a theory. Tell me, what is your in-person, be clear with me whether it's in-person or Zoom. I'm actually curious about Zoom, if you don't mind. What is your limit on a meeting before you need a break? You could tell me in person or Zoom, but tell me, what is the time amount before you start like thinking about other things? Your brain starts to wander. How much time does someone have your attention for? 45 minutes? 20 minutes? 1 hour? Yep. 30 minutes, 20 minutes? Same. So if you are only doing extended meetings for your team, why would their attention span be any different than that? I want you to think about what answer you just said. And then I want you to think about how long your meetings are that you probably put together. And do you see a discrepancy there, right? Right? Okay, give me a reaction if I ever say something where you're like, ooh, that's me. Because I feel like that's all of us sometimes, right? So by keeping it focused 15 minutes or less, this is going to ensure that you are able to keep their engagement and keep it moving so that they can jump back into whatever else they were doing. Focused topics. I love this. By keeping the huddle focused on a specific objective, a specific topic, you meet for 15 minutes with very clear goals in mind. It really helps keep the direction and prevent unnecessary tangents, because you can redirect back to the purpose of the meeting. It helps maintain the focus on important issues, making decisions, finding solutions efficiently. These shorter huddles ensure that everyone understands the purpose and the outcome of the meeting, which leads to more clarity, engagement. And if you have any people on your team, I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach, so I use Strengths Finder as my love language. If anybody is familiar with what the executors are in Strengths Finder, give me a reaction. I don't know if I'm alone here, but Executors are the people that like to come with a structured agenda, get it done, and then get out of there. If that's you, some people call them type A, there's a lot of words we can use. Your executors love a huddle, an effective huddle, because they got the information they need and now they can get back to what they were doing. It's not 20 extra minutes of whoever knows what. Okay, let's see. What else? Some benefits. I'm trying to convert you to huddle lovers here. Enhanced productivity. They're short to the point, which means they're not very time consuming. It doesn't take a long time to get the information to the team that they need, and then everybody can go back to work. It saves you a lot of time in meetings where I know you need to be with clients, you need to be with communities, you need to be doing data, whatever you're doing. It will make it more effective for you. You get shortened response times. So for you leaders in the room that are waiting for an update, a status, progress in a fast-paced environment like yours, a short huddle lets a team respond quickly to changing circumstances and makes timely decisions. By reducing the time spent in meetings, teams can allocate more time to actual work and adapt to evolving priorities or challenges with, the ever-changing landscape. So you have a quick update or a change. You can give that change, make it quick, make it sweet, everybody moves on. And lastly, reduced meeting fatigue, because you just told me how much time you've got in the tank before you are over the meeting. A 15-minute huddle, especially when it's effective, will help reduce that meeting fatigue that all of us, I am sure, have felt at least one time in this new Zoom environment. Am I right? Okay. So what exactly is the difference between a huddle and a meeting? And I wonder, as I'm talking about this, maybe you could start making notes for yourself. Which topics, if you were to cover them with your team, would be best in a huddle? Which topics would be best in a meeting? I have a visual to represent how I see them. I'm a visual learner. These are the two images that come to mind when I try to describe the difference between one and the other, a huddle versus a meeting. On the left, we have a quick huddle on a football field. And on the right, we have a team meeting in an office, which could be on Zoom, it could be anywhere. Tell me in the chat. Well, let's think about it this way. A huddle is intended for a quick chat, right? The coach blows that whistle, gets them all together and says, hey, we need to be focusing on this. Hey, stop doing that. Hey, this is our next play. Now go get them. In a meeting, however, it looks like a little bit more in-depth conversation. Do you see that on the right? They have their papers out. They're taking notes. They're drinking coffee. So tell me in the chat, which setting would be the best fit for the following conversation topics? You could say huddle or meeting. How about detailed analysis and brainstorming? Maybe you're looking at data. Maybe you're looking at survey scores. Maybe you're trying to figure out your strategic initiative for next year. A meeting. Love it. Yes, yes, yes. How about you're trying to give a specific update to a provider? Maybe they've changed their number. Maybe there's a new policy. Maybe there's a great huddle. Absolutely. That's quick and specific. How about a discussion around your team has decided that they want to streamline a process and you want to gather ideas on what you've done before, what your next goal is for that streamlined idea, and maybe some ideas on how to move forward. So this would be a comprehensive discussion. Great, a meeting. All right. Love it. I think you're getting it. You're getting it here. These two settings really are the best platform for two different types of dialogue. Huddles should be short and to the point and specific and allow people to take immediate action. A meeting is for more thought and pondering and ideas. Let me give you a little chart. This is in your notes, the note-taking slides that I gave you. A team huddle, that's a whistle. It looks like a cannon, which now that I'm looking at it, like maybe that's like, Go get them. But no, it's a whistle. Team huddles, 15 minutes or less. Team meetings, 30 minutes to several hours. And do me a favor, would you please? Please. If you're doing in-person meetings or Zoom meetings, y'all need a break. If not every hour, every 90 minutes. Am I right? Who here needs a break every 90 minutes if the meeting is several hours long? Same. Somebody asked for the notes. You got it. I just dropped it into the chat for y'all. So, team huddle led by leader, team meeting, more shared leadership. Absolutely. A team huddle does not have to always be led by a leader. We'll talk about that as well. Here's the other thing to note. Team huddles, just kind of comparison here, conducted more frequently. They're typically, some people do them daily. Some people do them a couple times a week. Quick to the point meetings. A team meeting is typically scheduled less frequently. It's weekly, it's monthly, because there are more in-depth conversations happening, and it's like an allocated chunk of time. Team huddles are designed for quick updates, coordination, alignment. Team meetings focused on comprehensive discussions. You might have a presentation. Maybe you have to make a decision on something. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a PowerPoint, you don't need a huddle. That's not a huddle thing. No PowerPoints in a huddle. I would say PowerPoints in a team meeting make the most sense. Team huddle is a smaller core of team members. I think of it as, since this is specific and relevant information to a group of folks so that they could go get something done, it's typically specialized to who they are. An all-staff team meeting, you can't do that in 15 minutes because you have staff across different departments doing different things, have different needs, different focuses, maybe different goals. I don't see how you would do team huddles in a large group format like that effectively. I do see, however, maybe the coordinators on the team have a huddle. Maybe this department does a huddle. They're supposed to be kind of segmented. Maximum size, I don't think the size matters as much as the agenda does. We'll talk about that. You could have 100 people doing the same job as long as everybody has the same agenda and you're following it. And it allows, and it's specific and allows for, what am I trying to say? If your goals are very specific, if the objectives are very specific, I don't think it matters how many people are there if you're sticking to the specific objectives of the team discussion. Team meetings involve a larger group of team members because there's typically cross collaboration that has to happen, right? You're trying to streamline a process or take two departments and find out how to make something more cohesive happen quicker, faster, more efficiently. That's a team meeting. That's not a huddle. I always say the only huddles you can have where you can make decisions and collaboration across different departments only happen at Hogwarts, because that's not real. That's magical. That requires team meeting with allocated 30 plus minutes of time. I would say that team huddles are highly focused agendas. They are very specific. You are keeping to it. A team meeting, however, might cover multiple topics or projects. Team huddle is swift sharing, which it's kind of to me like a rapid fire, just, either what are the updates, what's the progress. It's supposed to promote immediate action, accountability, problem resolution, whereas team meetings can involve detail reporting, data analysis, brainstorming sessions. Team huddles encourage brief discussion, quick decision-making, rapid response. I might have already said that. And team meetings provide opportunities for in-depth collaboration, problem-solving, strategic planning. As I say that, I'm curious if you have started thinking through, are there any topics that you cover in a team meeting that actually would do really well in a team huddle? If so, tell me what some of those topics are in the chat. What are some topics that you cover in meetings that actually don't have to be a meeting? Like some of you are probably drinking from a mug that says this could have been an email, right? Sometimes I feel like this could have been a huddle. When I hear people talk about their meeting agendas, I'm like, that could have been a huddle. You could have done that. So, have we heard back from so and so on this project? Absolutely, especially if it's timely and you have to know, a huddle's the best place to do it, or else you're waiting a week, 2 weeks for the next meeting. Quick follow-ups, quick updates, and team changes. Yes, absolutely. You're getting it. Yeah. Announcements. I love it. Mental health check. How about employee recognition? Remember, I'm an HR nerd. So maybe it's somebody's anniversary, work anniversary. Do you want to wait until the meeting a month later? Maybe. Oh, yeah, both. Absolutely, Abby. All the above, right? Acknowledgements. It's a great time to have those recognitions that are timely and effective. And huddles are great for that. All right. So I wanted to give you some tips and strategies how to develop an effective and engaging team huddle agenda. Now, I mentioned to you earlier that my background in human resources is in training and development, staff at all levels. I did a lot of huddle training, a lot of team meeting training, and blah, 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 all those fun things. The crowd I was training at the time was hospitality. And hospitality is a 24/7 industry with staff working directly with guests in the heart of the house that you can't see. I always say a hotel, because I've worked at a hospital and I've worked at a hotel now. They're very similar to me. The difference is a guest guests at a hotel want to be there. Guests at a hospital did not plan to be there. But the hospitality, the operations, the 24/7, the fast pace have a lot of similarities. So I wanted to bring you some tips and strategies from another industry to show you what it looks like in a high-paced environment. And maybe we can learn from someone else. In this case, it's going to be a restaurant. We have Google Chat Spaces for recognition. I love that. A lot of people use different types of technology for spaces. I think if you build that into a huddle agenda as well, maybe part of your huddle agenda is to call out some of the most recent recognition that came from the spaces. Like, hey, here are some of the things that we saw in there. It's just a way to kind of fold it into your process. Okay. Couple strategies for you. It starts with the preparation. You have to be clear on the outcome or the goals that you want to achieve realistically, y'all. Realistically. Not, it would be nice to, but what could we actually do? I promise it's easier to add to your agenda than it is to remove from your agenda. So maybe as you get started, you choose 2 goals max. They might be sharing project updates, or it might be addressing urgent issues that have come up, making time-sensitive decisions, and collaborating on problem solving. Maybe one of those, 2 of those could be the goal of a huddle. And it could look different. Maybe your Monday huddle has these goals, but your Wednesday huddle has different goals. That's okay. That's totally fine. What makes the most sense for your team is my question. You have to prepare and or distribute agendas or materials in advance. In my experience, huddles are most effective when there is a structure everybody can expect. It follows the same flow every single time. There's no surprises. Everyone knows that we start like this. This is the update I have to come ready to talk about, and we end this way. And of course, let me back up. When you communicate the agenda in advance and you share the agenda with the team and they know what to expect and they have time to prepare before they get there, It gives them the opportunity to show up with the update, with the question, with the suggestion, and it's going to promote efficiency. But do they know what to expect? I actually worked on a team once where we had a huddle calendar. It was on our calendar on Outlook, and it takes a very there's somebody on your team that is that person that would do like an agenda for everything in their life. They are the best person to ask about creating an Outlook calendar invite with a very specific structured agenda that gets followed every time. So maybe you're my team, all 60, whatever of you, and I'm like, hey, y'all, on Thursday for our huddle, we're going to talk about the local FRCs in the area, family resource centers, community-based family resource centers. Do we know how many we've got in our area? Do we all have the same list? So there's a sheet on the shared drive. Please go in there, plug anything that's missing. We're to come together. We're going to talk about how we're going to outreach them and connect with them and build partnership with them, or food banks, or bring your favorite diaper resource, bring your favorite childcare resource. I want people to know in advance so they could come ready and prepared. And when they get there, we're going to come up with a list of our top 5 favorites, our top 5 most effective that we'll have ready to give to parents and families and caregivers. And we did that in 15-minute huddle. That's what I mean about preparing in advance and giving people a chance to prepare. You also want to make sure that you allocate time for each agenda item. Estimate how much time should be dedicated to each topic to make sure that you stay on schedule. This is a hard one because it also requires that you stick to the agenda. And I know it's hard. I know. You got excited to see each other. You think of 1,000 ideas together. I love that. I love that for you. But you're going to completely, dismiss the purpose of a huddle if you allow like bunny trails and tangents to take you off course. Know what you want to get out of the huddle. What are the important things that should happen? And then how much time is it going to take? If you're like, well, this topic is going to take us 15 minutes to review, stop it. Then that's not a huddle. That's a meeting. Unless your huddle is just that one specific 15-minute discussion, great. Do it. That's fine. But if it's going to take 30 minutes, that's not a huddle. That's a meeting. So that's preparation for you. Now, what is the structure? What does it look like? A huddle should have structure. Like I said, an agenda that follows a rhythm, a routine. People can expect it. You should establish time limits and enforce discipline. Meaning, if you say that the huddle is 15 minutes long and your huddle starts becoming 20, 25 minutes long, I would love for you to tell me in the chat, how do you feel when there is a scheduled meeting on your calendar and when you get there, that meeting went 20 minutes over what they said it was going to be? Frustrating. You know what the funny part is? Even now, give me an emoji if you feel this too. Even if I don't have anything else to do after the allocated time, there's nothing on my calendar, I'm still frustrated that it went over. Anybody else? Is it just me? Because like you said, it is like a human thing. We have an expectation, like an internal timer of how long we thought this was going to take. And now we're way over that limit. Exactly. Makes me resistant to the next meeting. So if you're going to, I want you to think about this 15 minutes, add to it instead of removing from it. Go in with 1 or 2 goals. And if you're like, oh my gosh, we're doing this in 10 minutes. Okay. Is there anything else I would add to it that's also specific and high impact? You're going to slowly build. Establish those ground rules for effective communication. Everybody should know. And someone says, how do we introduce this to our team and support them? I'll tell you, you start by explaining this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. I would say probably in your next meeting, because nobody's going to know what a huddle is, in your next meeting, maybe carve out some time to introduce this new thing that we're going to try, which is huddles. Now, if you say we're going to introduce daily huddles 5 days a week, people are going to be like, what? So be careful. I would say maybe be specific on why you need it, how it's going to be beneficial, and realistically, how many do you need a day? Or if you're going to do daily huddles, you better start removing meetings off their calendar. Because why are you doing meetings every week and huddles every day? Really? Okay. Encourage concise and focused discussion. Delegate responsibilities to minimize distractions and maximize efficiency. And this is part of the explanation to them on what they can expect. These are the roles that you might assign to people. And as I'm telling you these roles, you might be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly who this is going to be. I think a facilitator of the huddle, they're the captain of the team. That captain doesn't have to be the leader with a capital L. Like, it doesn't have to be the manager. It could rotate. Maybe different people lead the meeting on, lead the huddle on different days, which is also a great leadership opportunity, right? Development. The facilitator would create the agenda. They manage making sure that agenda gets on the Outlook calendar or whatever you're doing. Note taker. That note taker is recording any decisions or action items that were made in the huddle. We have a huddle and hustle meeting every 2 weeks. Yes, I love it. Timekeeper, that's the person that's keeping track. We said this was going to be 15 minutes long, so I'm giving us a 2-minute warning when we get close. And when it's time, they're also the one to be like, they blow that whistle. That's it. We're out. Like, we're out of time. The parking attendant is somebody that identifies conversations that are starting to tangent or are starting to run over time. And they say, hey, everybody, I love where this is going. I'm putting it in the parking lot. That parking lot is a place where we save discussions that are not best right here, but we should either add it to a meeting or put it on the next huddle agenda, depending on what the topic is that needs to be covered. And you have an action advocate, somebody that says, all right, just before we go, here's who's doing what. Here's maybe who's sending that email, who's responding to that referral, when we're meeting on this thing, just so that we all know. I love it when a team has a huddle tracker where they type in some of these. So if I was the note taker, I would be typing them right into a spreadsheet as it's happening. And then we all have a record of it. I think that's the easiest, most concise way to do it. Now, I'm curious, what do you think some of the pushback I hear from people are when I talk to them about huddles? What are some of the things that they give me some grief about? What they think they struggle with? Time, which is funny because huddles are time saving. I'm like, what? But go ahead. What else? Anything else? I don't know, maybe, and Angelita, you might agree. It might be buy-in, like getting people to get on board with this huddle. Updates can be emails, yes. And please don't make it a meeting if it can be an email. Make it a meeting if the emails are not effective. If your team can do it by email, go for it. Still schedule time to connect, but if it could be an email, send an email. But if it's not working, huddles are a great option. So here are a couple challenges. People can be resistant to the change. I think the best way to approach resistance is to address it directly. Communicate what the benefits are of a shorter, more focused huddle. Explain how it might improve productivity. Provide examples maybe of topics that you cover in meetings that would be in the huddle so they know like what would be expected. Maybe even involve your team members in the decision-making process of, all right, everybody, so if we do a huddle, what are some things that we might want to address that are short, sweet, and to the point? Your team can collectively create that agenda together. Some people have difficulty managing distractions. So, the conversation gets long-winded, and that is difficult. It's hard to manage distractions or keep the huddle focused. That's why I think setting those ground rules before you even roll this out is important, like no side conversations, no electronic device usage, things like that. It's important to designate that facilitator to keep the discussion on track and redirect off-topic conversations to the parking lot. Of course, you want to prioritize agenda items and allocate time to discuss them. I like a visual aid or a timer. So let's say that we're in a meeting together and this topic is going much longer than it should have. Maybe I am the timekeeper and I do, on typical Zoom, you have different icons. Maybe my icon is a little timer that goes in the corner so that we can say like, hey, everybody, we're coming up on time or something like that. Some teams will set a physical timer on their phone and set it down and be like, all right, we got 15 minutes, let's go. Keep people engaged. I think it's also kind of fun. Some people set like a buzzer. We're going to talk before the buzzer goes off, which I think makes it also kind of fun. Let's see what else. Time constraints, of course, that is difficult because you get interrupted unexpectedly. Establish a schedule for your huddle and stick to it consistently so people know that, the first 15 minutes from 10 to 10:15, I'm always in a huddle. So I'm doing my best to not schedule during that time. Could huddles lower morale if you're moving too fast? Depending on what the goal of the huddle is. If the goal of the huddle is to build team collaboration, foster relationship, make besties forever, yeah, it's going to feel not effective in a huddle. I think if recognition of each other, however, is part of that, that could be done short, sweet. So I always say, what is your objective? Does the platform that you're doing this in allow you to meet the objective? So that can, and I think if it's moving too fast, you have too many agenda items. Okay. Foster inclusion and participation. I think this is an opportunity to rotate responsibilities. Maybe everybody draws a responsibility from a little hat, or you do a spin the wheel virtually and everybody receives an assignment. That kind of keeps it fun and fresh and make sure that everybody can participate. And lastly, but not leastly, utilizing the technology tools for remote or distributed teams. Maybe you have a conferencing system that allows screen sharing like Zoom and Teams. It does it for you. Or maybe you have a collaboration tool like Asana or Trello, or you have something that your team kind of all has in a shared capacity, Google Sheets. And of course, whatever technology you're using, make sure that everybody has access to it. That's all I wanted to say about that. But I brought an example with me. Excuse me one second. Remember I told you I came from hospitality and human resources, leadership development, things like that. I'm going to show you a huddle agenda. It's called a pre-shift for folks that work at restaurants. They have to do these multiple times a day because they have different servers and staff, cooks, everybody shuffling in throughout their shift. And they don't have a ton of time to do it because the pre-shift typically happens an hour before we open the doors. So what I'm showing you, and this is in your notes, is a template example of what it can look like. A pre-shift template, this is from restaurantowner.com. They have 3 goals for their pre-shift: to inform, to educate, and to inspire. You could see within each of those goals, they take very specific actions. To inform, they want people to know, here's how many people we're expecting to be here. Here's how many people made reservations. Here's the shift announcement. So maybe we have people that have called out. Maybe we have an event coming up tonight or tomorrow. They also want to provide education for their staff. Maybe they're like, okay, just so you know, we're out of this meal, we're out of this ingredient, we're trying this new drink. This is what it's made out of. Or maybe they're like, hey, everyone, tonight our focus is to say my pleasure instead of you're welcome. We're going to practice, look at your neighbor, thank them, and have them respond with my pleasure, not your welcome. So these are like quick to the point, even development opportunities. They might also want to inspire. So maybe they have some recognition. Hey, everybody, we got these great Yelp reviews. Hey, everybody, it's so-and-so service anniversary. And they are doing this very quickly. I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant. Tell me if you have. Tell me how much time you have to sit and listen and like do full team meetings. Not happening. So if they can do it, a team that with very little time has found ways to be effective and development in nature, it is possible. Look at what they're not talking about. They're not saying like, hey, everybody, let's dream up next year's menu. Not appropriate for a huddle. So here is a filled in example of what that might look like. In this case, they have designated who is going to facilitate. I think it'd be helpful if this is going to be a assigned thing, maybe you have a couple of different assignments depending on who's going to be the timekeeper, who's going to be this, who's going to be that. As you could see on here, I just feel they've provided this on restaurantowner.com, just an example of what it might look and feel like. So they're giving shift expectations, like reservations, how many people have reserved. They are doing even a service training on their 10-4 rule, which is a hospitality thing. They're giving recognition. So they're saying, here are the people that are joining our team. And they're even giving some appreciation and saying, hey, let's take a moment. Does anybody have a thank you to give on the team? So these are examples. It doesn't have to look like this. It can look like whatever you want. And you know the best place to find it? Google Team Huddle template. You don't have to start from scratch. The internet did the work for us. Find something that works for you. But I think something that stands out to me the most is this part. They have 3 specific goals, and they're really going for it. Okay, now this is my hope for you. What would it look like for you to plan your next huddle? Well, it can look a little something like this. But first, I'm curious, now that we've talked about this so far, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that you would want to try this once a week? Would this be a twice a week thing for you? And would you be looking at AM, afternoon? Does a time come to mind for you? Tell me in the chat. What time of the day and what day of the week would you start a huddle if you wanted to try it out, try it on for size? Weekly, great. Love it. 1 to 2 times a week, morning. Yeah. Morning, great. Great. So here are some things to consider. This is a 15-minute suggestion. It doesn't have to be yours, but it's just, if you need one, here it is. 1 minute, welcome. That's a say hello. We used to do things where for 1 minute, you would play either, rock, paper, scissors, or maybe you're doing a categories, or maybe it's just a time to say thank you to someone on the team. 5 minutes for a team update. This could be everybody goes around and provides a brief update on their progress, a key accomplishment. Maybe you have on our team, we use a project management kind of vibe. So we'll say, all right, everybody, let's look at the next 2 weeks of training. Do we have anything coming up in the next 2 weeks we need to talk about? And I say, yeah, sorry, I'm going to be on vacation next Tuesday. I need somebody to facilitate this training. I would never do that. They would know that well in advance, but that's an opportunity for people to be aware of maybe even scheduling what's happening in the next 2 weeks. Every meeting, my team sits in together, we talk about that. Priority discussions. This might be crucial information that changes or impacts the team's work today or this week. So maybe there is a closure, or there's a new form, or there is a better contact, an updated phone number. Maybe team members share that they're having challenges here. So someone says like, hey, is anybody else having issues with this referral agency? I haven't been able to contact anybody for a week. What's going on over there? This is an opportunity for people to share these priorities that are urgent to the work today or this week. You also have action items and accountability. So review action items, maybe from the previous huddle, check in on progress. Maybe this is a chance to assign new action items, or like, let's review our next steps. Let's review our current caseloads. Let's review. There's so many things that you could review in 5 minutes or 3 minutes or less. But this is an opportunity for people to say, do we know what is happening next today or this week based on our huddle? It's action items. Who's doing it? When are they doing it by? And lastly, that wrap up and next steps is to confirm times, dates, locations if you need to, express gratitude to each other, end on a positive note. It's just to say thank you for your time. Make sure that everybody is clear. If there's a next step, when is that next step happening? This format will feel overwhelming if you try to take your typical team meeting and convert it to a huddle. Please do not do that. That will not work. It will work best if you could identify key areas, 1 or 2 key topics or key objectives that you want to focus on in a next huddle. Now, here's what I know. I know that someday only happens in the month of February. I'll say it again. Someday only happens in the month of February, as in it is never going to happen. So I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, what day and what time are you going to try this huddle? Now, take into consideration, you do have to tell your team that it's happening. Don't schedule a huddle to tell them about a huddle.